Good evening, good evening. How are we all? I am running a minute or two late, so I do apologise about that. I haven't set up my usual disclaimer. So it's just a reminder, this is not therapy or counselling, therapy or coaching or a workshop. It's just me with my book answering questions or opening up depth to some topics. Remember, to chat, you need to be subscribed. Apart from anything, I would love you to be subscribed anyway. Right, there we go. Sorry about that. Just a few minutes late there. I had a client. I'll just pin it to the top. Okay, right, here we go. Who's here? If there's anyone here, give me a little thumbs up. Let me know that you are. Oh, I just saw 111 there on the timer, which was cool. Let me know who's here, and I'll give it a second or two, and then I'm actually just going to dive in tonight. I'm really looking forward to this chapter because I was doing a post about it today for social media, and I was reading it because I needed to remind myself of everything that was in it. And I actually forgot, it's a short chapter, but just how much I loved this moment, if you will. And it reminds me even of my client tonight. So focusing on choosing me over people pleasing and putting myself last, etc. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting stuck in. So this is my book. For anyone that doesn't know, Uncertainty is Your Superpower. I will be reading a passage from this book, particularly tonight. It will be chapter 6 that we're on to now. And I'll be adding some depth to a few topics that I've looked out. And I'll open up the chat for anyone that wants to ask a question or share an insight or share something about themselves. You're very welcome to do so. To be able to chat in the live chat box, you do need to be subscribed to my channel, but I would love you to be subscribed anyway, so you're notified when the lives are scheduled. So here we are. I think I said in the last session that I was really glad that it was chapter 5 and it was the end of the release part. So my book's in 3 parts. That's my business model: release, reset, and rise. It's what I did in my own life. And I was glad that chapter 5 was the end of release, because it was going back over a lot of difficult things for me. Whereas now we're into the reset. Breathe, align your mind and body and soul, and decide who you are becoming. So true. Chapter 6, the recalibration, choosing me one step at a time. And I'm really keen to get started on this chapter. I really enjoy this one. So without further ado, let's get to it. I'd entered the most pivotal year of my life, the year I turned 39. I'd been back in mortgages as a manager for about a year, and I felt like myself again, just more evolved. I was finally thinking clearly too. No more daily fear going into the office. I'd just come back from a holiday in Vegas with one of the best people I met in the bank. See, it wasn't all bad in corporate. It was one of those big, messy, brilliant trips full of laughs. I celebrated my birthday on that trip, marking the occasion with a Britney Spears concert. I'll never forget that night or that holiday. It was so freeing to be there. Finally able to enjoy time off work, fully disconnected from the world. I was having fun without worrying myself senseless. My heart was full and my body was filled with peace and calm. But somewhere in the jet lag, I heard a whisper. Don't I always? It's time. The day after I returned from Vegas, I saw an advert on social media for an open day at the Open University being held in the Mitchell Library in Glasgow. Even though the travel, exhaustion, I knew I was going to that open day. Something about it just drew me in. The chap running the stall was so lovely, so friendly and easy to talk to. He told me about the different degrees and how they worked and how things worked at the Open University. He then said confidently that I would be a good candidate, and that moment, something inside of me just started to awaken. Could I do it? Yes. Prove to yourself you can, Debbie. Do something that challenges you. And so I did. I didn't sign up for the uni degree because I had some bold career vision, and I wasn't chasing a promotion or a new title. I just knew deep inside of me it was physical. I needed to do something for myself. I was tired of living for the weekend, for the approval, for the version of life I thought I was supposed to want. I'd finally started rebuilding my confidence, and my dysregulated nervous system was at peace. I wasn't quite sure of what was next, but I knew this: the bank wasn't it. I signed up for the psychology with counselling degree, and that week, and started a few months later. I even remember my books arriving at my neighbour's door. I wasn't home, and the excitement of seeing them, and the pride I felt telling her what I was up to in my next chapter of life. I still had no clue what was about to unfold. It wasn't easy. I was still working full time at the bank, so I didn't have a whiteboard or a neat study routine straight away. Instead, I dragged myself to the local library on the weekends and stay up late after work. There was a lot of tears, a lot. I often doubted myself, but working towards a bigger goal gave me a new sense of peace. I had a purpose. Studying brought me a strange sense of calm. It stretched me, but in the right direction. It wasn't long before work began to feel like the thing that was getting in the way. I didn't hate it, but I was outgrowing it. My brain was lighting up in ways I hadn't been for years. I was starting to learn about the brain, about emotions, about how change truly happens. It taught me more about the world too, like social issues. I felt like I had woken up for the first time. I started to pull back from the social scene, saying no to nights out a little more often. Said yes to long walks and hill climbs to keep my body fit and my head clear. For the first time in years, I started focusing on my goals rather than society's or anyone else's expectations. I wasn't great at prioritising myself, and saying no was a challenge. But those early days at university were the first steps in the right direction to figuring out what healthy boundaries meant. I began to choosing to protect my energy over obligation, realising I couldn't sit in everyone else's drama. I had to focus my attention on what would impact me and help me change my life. I'm not saying it was easy, and I still definitely drifted in and out of people pleasing, being the fixer, generally putting others' needs before my own for a long time. But I was definitely a work in progress from that moment onwards. I leaned into curiosity over fear, and it was one of the most significant lessons I learned in my own healing and personal growth. To keep moving through the darkness, yes, with trepidation, but to keep going and trust all would be good in the end. I focused on my future over my past, and through time, my past drifted away like a cloud in the sky. Of course, it was my history, my story, but it wouldn't serve me to keep the wounds open and carry them into my future. I was evolving daily at that point, still am, and shed many skins. Did I wobble? Absolutely. I still overgave, overdid, and overthought. But I was learning slowly, one step at a time. University wasn't about getting a degree for me, it was about building a new foundation for my life. And while no one else might have seen it, I knew something real was shifting. I'll never forget my first year at uni, the New Year's Eve 2015. I was lying in my bed, acutely aware that my life was changing forever. And I felt a peace so deep within me. Every new year since, I love the midnight hour rolling in, knowing I'm still evolving and changing, and life is forever moving forward. It's the best feeling in the world. A bit like a big hug from the universe or from myself. Chapter 6 from my book, Uncertainty, is Your Superpower. So I'll leave a link in my description if you're interested in my book, if you don't have it, although you don't have to join Sofa Chats. If there's anyone would like to share anything, any insights of their own, please feel free. You are more than welcome to contribute. And I'm just getting this set. Anyway, so there we are. Some of the key topics that came out of this for me. I had a few ideas actually, because even although it's a short chapter, it was quite momentous, because the choosing me part, it really does focus a lot on being drawn into other people's lives, other priorities, conflicting priorities. And it's not always easy to assert yourself, to go after what you want, because we too easy can get pulled into other people's lives, and it's not always a bad thing. You know, I'm still there a lot for my family, but I've ventured away much further now, because of the healthy boundaries I've been able to set over the years, ones that I didn't know how to set for a long, long time. So maybe if you have chosen yourself at some point in your life, I'd love to hear about it, because every story that someone tells, it actually shares a message, letting other people know that it is possible, because often we feel like we're trapped or there's nowhere else to go and life will always be this way. But in actual fact, change really is possible. I'm the living proof of that, but it does take effort, a little bit of discipline, well, a lot of discipline at times, depending on what it is you want to make the change in. But you know, if I reflect throughout this chapter, some of the bits that stood out for me were being in Vegas, and not just being there, but being there freely. So you'll remember in the previous chapter, I just wasn't myself in that old job. It sucked the life out of me. So anytime I was on holiday and I was in plenty, I didn't feel free. I couldn't release the fact that I was almost feeling like I was escaping every time I travelled from that old job. Then leaving there, going back to the mortgage department, rebuilding, and then going on this first big holiday since then, it was like night and day. Now, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you go on holiday and the predominant feeling is, obviously, we all get a bit of relief. We're in holiday. We love it. Who doesn't? You know, even in a business, I love being in holiday. But if you constantly feel like you're running away from your life or your work or whatever it is, and then you have that constant dread at going back, and then everything goes back to the exact same, then these are the moments that we want to look in and say, well, what could it look like if I didn't feel like I was running away? What would my holidays be like? What would my time off be like if I'm able to enjoy it in a way that doesn't make me feel like I'm escaping? I love that chapter, as it reminded me life is a cycle and it's not a one oh God, you know, I think that's how I was feeling actually when I was reading it myself, Greg. And you're absolutely right. We're not in this, but we have lots of goals and it's great to work towards them. But if I'm going to be truthfully honest right now, I just spent months there rebuilding restructuring things in my business, making a lot of changes. And honestly, in the last 3 days, I have just made the decision that I don't want anything that I've just built. I just want something different. And there's a time in my life I would have thought that because you've just created it, or because you've just arrived at that situation, that that's how it needs to be forever. No, you're absolutely right. life is a cycle and it's not a one chance thing. You don't get one opportunity to make the change. You get hundreds of opportunities. The only difference is number one, can you see the opportunities when they come up? Because a lot of time we think that life is a certain way, but mostly we don't see the opportunities if we're not looking for them. So that's number one. Am I looking out for my opportunities? And the second thing is, am I ready to act when the right one comes along? Because for me, that comes from your nervous system being regulated, your belief in yourself being high, and your desire for change being extremely powerful. But that's not the same as jumping from frying pan into the fire. We've all been there. The point is, it's if I look back at that job that I took, that if you were on any of the previous calls, you'll know it nearly killed me in the process. It was horrible. Um, that for me, I took out of desperation to get out of where I was. Sure, I worked hard for it to navigate it and find my way into that role. But if I'm honest, it was because I desperately wanted out of where I was, not really because that's necessarily what I believed was the right thing. I probably convinced myself that was the case, but as my reality, I just wanted so badly to be away from where I was. Now, look what happened there. It wasn't the right thing. Turned out a living nightmare, which then pushed me into making the biggest change I've ever made in my life. So the worst times became the best times. But that one chance that I thought I was getting to make that big change, no, that actual chance came, what, a year later when I decided to start the degree. And then the next chance came when I decided to leave the bank, which will all come when you follow this journey. But ultimately, it's cyclical, as you say. We get chance after chance, but that's the goal. Am I seeing my opportunities? So, how am I making myself aware that I'm open to be presented with opportunities? Do I have enough of an open mind that won't close something down that on the face of it we might think, I'm not really sure about that? Do we have enough belief in ourselves to know that we're not leaping for the wrong reasons? But do we also know that sometimes the next move doesn't need to be the forever move? Maybe like me, the next move becomes the move before the next, which becomes the last in corporate before you go on to the next thing. How do we know? So putting yourself into a good state of mind, calm, sure of yourself, able to trust your decision making, strong self belief. If we have all these things in place, then when we see the opportunity, we will grab it with both hands, like I did with that, seeing that degree being advertised, going that day, trusting it and knowing it. But interestingly, and I haven't written this in the book, what you've said there about the cycle is not one chance. So when I actually signed up for my degree, when I contacted the Open University, they said to me, oh, once I gave them my details to start the process, they went, oh, we've already got an account opened for you for the same course. Because 5 years previously, I had already looked at that course. 5 years previous, I'd already thought about doing a degree. But it took me 5 years to finally come to a point of no return. I could have done it 5 years earlier, and actually at that point I would have done it. I would have graduated. But I'd had another 5 years of personal growth, inner healing, development, understanding myself, so that when I actually made the decision to do it, there was no question. I knew exactly why I was doing it, and I knew I was 100% doing the right thing. So timing sometimes is everything, and I'm all for make the leap. It's never the right time. That's true too. But there's sometimes just better times than others to make that decision. We just all must remember that when we're on our way out of here in this life, that at the very least, if we can look back and say, I took my shot, I gave it a go, I tried that, and we didn't feel that fear kept us trapped, then what more can we do in this world? What more is really possible? So yes, cycles 100%. I actually forgot to read you the whisper from chapter 6. Let's see if we've got insight in that. When something inside you whispers, this might be for you, trust it. Change doesn't always arrive with noise. Sometimes it begins as a quiet nudge, asking you to choose yourself. There's a lot of truth in that because I do believe when we take a step back, when we quieten our mind in whatever way that is for us, we do hear the answer. We really do. I heard Italy so loud for me to travel there and maybe live there for periods of time. I heard it many, many, many times, and I was terrified to make that leap until there was no possible way for me to deny how loud I heard it shouting in my ear. It was so strong. I just had no other way to move past it than do it. And I've never looked back because everything that happened from that trip going to Italy in the spring last year, my life never looked the same. So, just like going to university, the minute I said yes, my life never looked the same after that either. So, having the courage to listen to that inner voice, that little tap, tap, tap on the shoulder. Sure, we might not do it straight away. Sometimes things need time to marinate. Sometimes we need time for things to get solutions to come to the table, or sometimes we need to put in place a plan. So I knew about Italy for a long time. I didn't have the opportunity to do it in my head. I didn't because I had a house in Scotland and financially I had a new business. And it's like, how would I do all of these things? And I don't know anyone and I don't speak the language and I've never been away for long periods of time on my own and very close with my family. And, there was all these things piece by piece. If you follow my journey in my book, you'll see how I made it all come together. But that's the thing. Italy, I actually booked when I was packing up my house um, in the summer last year to rent it out. I was going through, I've got tons of books in my bookcase, and one of the books was Lonely Planet, and it was Italy, big thick book. And I remember buying it. It was when I worked in corporate, so it was like over 10 years old. And I had never been to Italy until I graduated university, and that was 2019. And then I never went there and lived for any prolonged period of time until last year. So 2025 was when I started doing longer stretches. So you're right, Greg, it is a cycle. It's not a one and done. Just because we've had the tap on the shoulder doesn't mean we need to do it tomorrow. It just means that there's something deep within us that's telling us there's something else, and the timing for it will come. We just have to decide what's important to us and when it feels good to make that decision. And for me, it came from a lot of inner work, healing, making peace with a lot of things that kept me feeling stuck, having the ability to trust myself very, very deeply. Because I was always a go-getter, quite high functioning and anxiety and high function as a person, just a lot of game face and keeping going. Um, I was always a high achiever, always wanted to keep striving and hyper independent. These were my three things that I talk a lot about. And once I worked through them, which was being able to ask for help, being able to, because if you can't ask for help, God help you go into another country with a foreign language, finding a place to live and all these things, you have to be able to communicate with people and be able to ask for help and support. And you also need to be able to do it in a business. The same with the high achieving. I had to bring it into perspective because I was actually high achieving, but I was going in the wrong direction. So I was using all my tenacity, my high functioning, pushing on, but I was going over here. It was like the wrong flight path. as soon as I paused and redirected myself, I've still got the same tenacity, I'm still high achieving, and I just continued with tenacity and grace with give myself grace and compassion. Now I'm going in another direction, but that feels different because it's actually where I want to go now. So it's just as hard work, but it doesn't feel that way because I'm doing something that I want to do now. So when you get the tap on the shoulder, the whisper in your ear, trust that it means something. And even if you're not in a position to do something about it today, just know that it's something that you can implement at a time when the time is right. And for me, I've also added in here for anyone that has the book a little bit of some of the clients I've worked with's journeys. And Claire has such a powerful one in there that fits really nicely in with that recalibration side of things where we're resetting and choosing ourselves. She has such a powerful story of stepping forward and choosing herself by doing that in her work, prioritizing herself, and actually in that space changing her whole life. So she has made some significant strides forward, and it's such a privilege to have actually worked with her. So if you have it, please take a read at Claire's journey because it is super powerful. Um, and yeah, she's just one of many people that I've worked with over the years that have changed their life through going inwards, because when you go within, you'll never go without. You learn to trust yourself, and it makes such a big difference. So if anyone has any other questions, you are more than welcome to ask away. I feel like I've covered a couple of key topics that came out of this chapter. I certainly enjoyed actually reading this one again today. So it was a nice change from some of the heavy stuff from chapters 1 to 5. If anyone has any questions, even in general, about my book, then please let me know. And also inside the main description, I think, of this video, you'll find a link to a free audio series. You just need to direct yourself to my website. The link's there. It will take you to my homepage. Free audio series, 3 audios that follow my model, which is release, reset, and rise. So if you need 5 minutes where you feel you've got permission to put the weight down, there's the release audio. If you need 5 minutes to sit on a sofa with me and feel at peace within your heart, you'll have a 5-minute audio for that. And if you need to feel that you can trust yourself again and believe in yourself and you need someone to G you on, there's an audio for that as well. So I'll be there to guide you on your journey. You can download it for free and get a little insight of what it's like to listen to my voice when I'm in the zone. So that's all for me tonight. If anyone watching this on catch up has anything they'd like to share, stick it in the comments, because I will always put in a thoughtful and insightful response. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. It not only lets you chat in the lives, but it also lets me know that you're following along for the future, and you'll be notified of any of the scheduled up sessions. So that's all for now. The next time I see you, because it won't be here in my mum's house in Glasgow, the next sofa chats will be back in Italy in Monopoly, and I'm looking forward to sharing a wee bit more about what's coming up when I get there, and I'm really looking forward to it because I'll be back there for 2 months, and anyone that knows me knows how much I love to be back in Italy. So thank you for your time tonight, everyone. Sending you all lots of love, and I will see you for more Uncertainty as Your Superpower next week. Bye for now.